Hey everybody, this is Josh with Late Start Piano. Today's video will be going over a little bit about chord extensions, what that is, different ways you can play them, and what they do for you. So what they do for you is they add a little bit of color to your chords. So everybody knows the triad position, right? The three note chords. We take C major, we play C, E, and G. In root position, that's the most basic chord that you can get. Root position, just three notes, triad, right in a row, C major. Okay, we can do a lot of different things with that. Of course, we can play inversions. We can do different chord voicings of it. We can spread it out. So we could play the C down here. We could play G and then E. Still a C major. If you want to really spread it out, something like that. C, G, E, G, and C. Still a C major, but now it's in an open position versus this closed triad position. So those are a couple different ways, but today we're talking about chord extensions and what that means. So chord extensions are similar to seventh chords. So seventh chord, we have the major seven. So in C major, it would be C, E, and G, the regular triad, with the added seventh, which would be B. For a major seven, if you want to play a dominant seven, or what people would call it just a C7, then you can flatten the seven, which would be B flat. Okay, so that's we had the triad, then we had the seven, major seven, or minor seven. The chord extensions goes beyond that. So we have from one, we have the one, the third, the fifth, the seventh. Chord extensions go above that. So you could have the ninth, which would be D, which would also be the second, right? Because the second degree of C major is D. So you could play it down here. But just to make it visually, hopefully a little bit easier for you, if we add the ninth on top, which is the D, because that's the second. It's also, if you do the octave, C to C is your octave. You go up one more, that's 9, right? Because an octave is an eighth. You go up one more, that's your ninth. So that's one way to do it. You can hear it adds a little bit more color than just the seventh. But most people can't play that, especially if you're using all 5 fingers to play 1 through 7 on the bottom. So this is where it gets pretty cool, because this is where you can kind of play around with different inversions of the same chord, right? So if you're playing, you need the C, you need the E, you need the G, you need the B, and you need the D, right? So you need 6 notes, but you only have 5 fingers on one hand. So now you can use both hands to play one chord. So one way you might voice this is if you play the C and let's say the D at the bottom, and then you can still play the E, G, and B in the right hand. So now you have that C, you have that root position note, you have the D, which was the ninth, remember? You have the third, the E, you still have the fifth, the G, and the seventh, the B. So that's one way you could do it. That would be a ninth. Maybe that's too big of a stretch for you. So you could do C and G. You could just play it as fifths in the left hand, C, G. Then we could play D, E, and B. Right? We still have all the key notes. We have the first note, the C. We have the fifth, the G. The ninth, the D. The third, the E. And then the B up top. Right? And that's a C9, C major 9, but it sounds a lot different than if we just had it in root position. Significantly different sound, right? So this is where you can kind of play around with the different inversions, the different voicings for the chords, and you can add a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be the ninth. You could add the 11th, which would be F. That's also a chord extension, the 11th. You can have your C13, right? All the way up here, or C add 13. You can kind of play around with it, make it your own. But those are just a kind of introduction to chord extensions, what they are. They add a little bit more color than just your closed triad, right? It's a little bit more flavor. You have a lot more options as far as the order of the notes that you play, which affects how the chord sounds. And you can spread it out. You can use the whole piano. You don't have to stay in a closed root position triad like this. I mean, you can spread it, right? So you're playing this C way down here and a G way up here. And already that sounds so much nicer because you're using a lot more of a range on the piano. You don't just want to stick to closed positions all the time, right? You want to spread it out, make it sound nice. You have 88 keys on a full-size piano, so make sure you use them. And hopefully that helps. Again, my name is Josh with Blade Star Piano.